Welcome, welcome, folks, and happy Thursday. It is October the 2nd. This is Hurricane Hub Live. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages. Tonight on HHL, Imelda, still talking about it, but it's post-tropical now and is no longer a threat to land. It did bring significant impacts to Bermuda about 18 hours ago last night with some wind, waves, and a good amount of rain too, but it's moving so quick, it's now long gone. We've got two new tropical waves to talk about. The 8 o'clock tropical weather outlook just was released from the Hurricane Center, and one of those two waves has seen an increase in probability of becoming our next named storm, which is Jerry. And it's still pretty active in the Eastern Pacific. We've got one named Storm Octave and another one possibly on the way. It's a high chance of a tropical wave becoming the next named storm there, which will be the 16th. Very active in the East Pac. All right, here we are. We're kind of on the downtrend, obviously, from the peak in the middle of September. Now, typically, the first half of October still could be just as active as what we would find in September. And I'll tell you what, the longer range outlooks do point to, by next week, a real significant uptick in tropical activity. And that does lead to the question of, is peak season more like late September and early October rather than the 10th of September? You know, past several seasons, we've seen a more active second half of the season after the peak than we usually do. If it's a trend or not, we'll see. Here's what's left of Imelda. It's now post-tropical, meaning it's losing its tropical characteristics. There's Bermuda. It's covered a lot of ground. It's cruising to the east-northeast at 29. And again, this is the last advisory at 11 o'clock this morning. So it is no longer getting any advisories from the Hurricane Center. That last update, it was 75-mile-an-hour winds. So still did have some hurricane force winds. Now, the track, it was a close call for a landfall in Bermuda. It looks like the center of Imelda tracked just south of the island there, but still did bring significant impacts. They certainly had hurricane force winds there, being that close to the center of Imelda, some very large waves, and of course the heavy rain that came along with it as well. But things have improved dramatically here over the last 12 hours or so, and it is moving very quickly off to the east and northeast. We'll see if satellite imagery does pop on here in just a second. You can see it's kind of almost a shell of what it was, I don't know, maybe 12, 18 hours ago. It looks like we're just not going to get that imagery out there today. All right, the long-range outlook, though, next week in the middle of the month does point to this part of the basin, the far western part of the main development region, for a low chance of tropical development. Now, keep in mind what this looks like, because we've got a tropical wave that's development areas that looks exactly like this. And then over there, leaning towards the southern Gulf and western Caribbean, and that does get even more highlighted 3 weeks out. By the 15th through the 21st, a pretty bold signal here for that far down range of a moderate threat for some tropical development coming from what we call Central American gyre. Basically a large, broad area of low pressure spinning over Central America. And sometimes spokes of energy can break off and pivot out into the southern Gulf, the western Caribbean, or even the eastern Pacific. So that area is quite favored by the middle of the month there. We'll see what kind of comes to play. All right, there's our two waves. Nothing is tagged as an invest or anything like that just yet. The wave here that's closer to Florida likely is just going to run out of runway. It's going to move over land before it has any opportunity to develop, which is why the chances are so low. And then this one here, the wave itself is still over Africa, so it hasn't even emerged over the Atlantic yet. But the odds just were increased up to 30%. As of the 8 o'clock advisory there. We'll talk more about that one in just a second. Let's get over to this wave now that's going to develop. If it was to develop, we get the next name Jerry, and then Karen's on the list, but likely will not. But it will bring about a lot of rainfall. Okay, the east coast of Florida looking at some significant rainfall over the next 5 days here, looking anywhere between 4 to 7 inches. And there are some spots in there right along the coast that could see more than that, up to 7 to 10 inches of rain there in the next 5 days or so. All right, let's talk about that next wave. We're going to jump out. We're going to go all the way out 10 days. Okay, we'll first stop things by early next week as we get towards the middle of next week, October the 8th. Notice we're starting to get some hints here from the longer range computer models, the Euro in the red, the GFS in the yellow, of something trying to get its act together. That's our wave that right now is tagged at a 30% chance. This point in time, probably not developed yet. Still way to the east of the Windward Islands. Jumping out a little bit farther, possibly impacting the northern Leeward Islands by next weekend, so a lot of time. But Euro has it as a hurricane, GFS has it maybe a struggling tropical storm. Also, Euro indicating something off the southeast coastline. So a lot of time to watch it. That's 10 days out. Okay, things can change, certainly. And our wave is still outside of the 10 to 12 day threat if it was to reach the U.S. Okay, so there's just so much time to watch it, and things will change, certainly as we go through the next week and a half in terms of the computer models. Something cool I want to share with you, because we talked about this when Aaron moved on through pretty much the exact same area of the Atlantic Ocean, the Southwest Atlantic. There was just so much violent upwelling or mixing of the ocean waters that the heating on the surface of the ocean was depleted. Some of that was used as energy to power a Category 5 storm, both in Aaron's case and Umberto's. And it leaves a scar, what we call sea surface scar. And you can see that broad as day here, indicating water temperatures, ocean temperatures along the surface have cooled by roughly 5 degrees Fahrenheit in these areas here along Umberto's path. If you remember Aaron's path, it was just a little bit farther to the south and west here, and that also showed a very similar scenario. And even starting to see the first signals here of Imelda's cold wake. So that's pretty cool right there. All right, out in the eastern Pacific now, we've got Octave and then another wave, pretty robust wave here off the coast of Mexico, moving away from land. That's got a 90% chance of development here. Octave is moving into a very weak steering environment, and you could see the track here kind of hits an area and then just kind of sits and spins itself out. Right now, 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, not likely to intensify very much. Again, as it's moving over the same area, it's eventually going to run out of energy. Our scorecard looks like this. No changes since yesterday. 9 named storms in the Atlantic, 4 hurricanes, 3 majors, 15 in the East Pac, 8 hurricanes, and 3 majors. Next name on our list in the Atlantic, Jerry, and then Karen. All right, coming up after a quick break, we're going to talk about more hurricanes. We'll see you in just a couple minutes. Welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. There's so many words you may hear us toss around a lot during hurricane season. Some may be familiar, but others you're probably hearing for the first time when you're tuning in to your local forecast. And meteorologist Craig Muller has a breakdown of some of those hurricane season terms.
Let's start with tropical wave. You often hear this before a storm forms. It's an unorganized area of unsettled weather associated with a trough of lower pressure. These are important to follow because around 85% of major hurricanes begin as tropical waves. Another common term you hear? Invest. Invest stands for investigative area. When a tropical wave becomes more organized, the National Hurricane Center will designate the area of disturbed weather Invest. Each invest is given a number from 90 to 99. For for example, Invest 90L. The L tells us the system is in the Atlantic. This also allows the National Hurricane Center to run ensemble models or spaghetti models on these systems. You might also hear the term cyclone during hurricane season. A cyclone is a blanket term for any area of low pressure that has closed circulation. Hurricanes, tropical storms, and tropical depressions are all cyclones because they are closed areas of low pressure. Let's take that one a little further. We'll use potential tropical cyclone when a disturbance is not yet a tropical cyclone, but which poses a threat of bringing tropical storm or hurricane conditions to land within 48 hours. By using this PTC designation, the National Hurricane Center can issue watches and warnings.
That's important because watches and warnings are normally reserved for tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes that have already formed. With your Hurricane Fast Facts, I'm Craig Moeller.
Well, folks, that'll do it for tonight's Hurricane Hub Live. Remember, we are back here tomorrow night and every night, 7 days a week at 8 p.m. for the latest on the tropics. We'll see you tomorrow.